Welcome to the Respectful Divorce Podcast. If you're considering a divorce, it's important to know that you have options for how you divorce. On the Respectful Divorce Podcast, we explore those options and provide advice from divorce professionals. I'm your host, Tim Crouch, and today we're talking with members of the Cleveland Academy of Collaborative Professionals. Joining us today are collaborative divorce attorney Mary Biacsi, Becky Murphy, a certified divorce financial analyst, and Elizabeth Bach, a collaborative family and child specialist. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for inviting us.
So, Mary, let's just kind of start because you're a divorce attorney by trade, and so you have a sense of the whole divorce process. What is it like to go through a traditional litigated divorce in the Cleveland area versus the alternative processes such as mediation or collaborative divorce?
Okay, that's a great question and one I often answer to prospective clients. So in 2017, I decided I am done handling litigation cases. And the reason why is you're stuck in the court process. Oftentimes, clients, we would have a court hearing, we would go, we would wait. It just would feel like you weren't getting anywhere. And clients often felt like they weren't being heard, and it's not very private, and it's a very emotional, difficult thing to go through the process. So in 2017, like I mentioned, I decided I'm done. I am here to help couples get through this very difficult process, and I didn't feel that my skill set that I had was helping in the litigation realm. And I just didn't feel like it was a really good holistic way to help clients. Now, with that said, there are certainly certain cases that probably need to be in the litigation arena. So the difference in my view is in a collaborative case, you're working with professionals that are all trained in this process. And it's a different way of communicating and modeling behavior to clients. We're focusing on the clients rather than the litigation process and, we must get this affidavit done or file this thing with the court. We're focusing on the client's needs, the client's concerns, their interests, what they're worried about. It's very much a holistic way to assist clients through the process. And even in a litigation process, if you have adult children, they're not part of that process. However, in a collaborative process, the adult children can be. That does not mean that they are at the table. They're not. But if there are any issues that need to be addressed in regards to the adult children, we have tools and are able to address those issues. Again, I see it as a holistic way to help a family, and we're helping a family kind of come apart and then put it back together in a way that works for that particular family. And one of the ways we do that is having these other professionals who are on this podcast with me.
So let's turn to those other professionals, because it's, your role, Mary, is that you're providing sort of the legal expertise, but with Becky and with Elizabeth, they're bringing a different kind of specialty and expertise into the room and into the discussion. And Elizabeth, talk about what you do in the collaborative process.
Sure. So, my background is as a family therapist and mental health professional, and my view of it really is part of the change process. People had an old status quo and of the way that they were, and we help them vision and get to their new status quo through the change process. And then how do we as professionals, as individuals, like as the way my role in it is really different than both Mary's and Becky's, but as an interdisciplinary team, how do we support these people in this change process that allows them to do what they need to do in the way, Mary, what I loved about what you said was like how unique to this family. Families are not the same. They don't change the same. They don't divorce the same. So how do we do that as a team, as individuals in our individual roles, really help people move their system from their old status quo to their new status quo, especially because they're at the same time, they're grieving, they're scared. Divorce isn't just about the piece of paper. It's not just about the, who gets the kids on Tuesdays and how much of the retirement account you get. When families divorce, they divorce financially, physically, and emotionally. And I really think that the collaborative process provides the opportunity for us to address all three of those disentanglements so that people can start to vision and think and move into what is going to be their new norm. And I think we do that really well because we take a family systems perspective. We take a growth-oriented perspective, not just a deficit perspective.
And Becky, you're that other part of the neutral team, part of the team with the financial expertise. Talk about what you do.
So the primary goal that I have is to gather all the information and present it along with the attorneys to enable the couple to make a fully informed decision. And by fully informed, I mean having all the data in front of them and actually participating in the division of assets and the setting of support for what on whatever basis they feel they can live with. So it really is a stark difference between litigation because the couple is formulating their own future. And so it's much more efficient for a neutral party to be gathering and presenting all the financial data versus each party's attorney doing the same thing with perhaps at least a perceived bias. So as a neutral, I'm things that are coming out of my mouth are perceived very differently than if your spouse's attorney is saying the same words. So it's nuanced, but it's very effective to have a neutral.
And I liked the language you used about the future, because that's the other piece in what you do that doesn't traditionally happen in a litigated divorce is you're helping the couple to be able to look ahead at what their financial future is going to look like, right?
Absolutely. So one of the main concerns that people have is, am I going to be okay? So in a litigated process, when your attorney comes out from behind closed doors after negotiating your future and says, oh boy, I got you X number of dollars per month in support, you're going to be saying, well, I have no context for that. Is that good? Is that bad? Am I going to be okay? But in this educative process of collaborative, you will be able to understand the context and feel comfortable about being okay. And that's what financial people bring to the table.
So, Mary, one of the things as we hear these things that this makes me think is that instead of litigation being the first resort, it should be the last resort, right?
Most people that come into my office, they have received prior to meeting with us an informed consent that talks about all of the different process options. And one page is adversarial, which includes litigation, and the other page is non-adversarial, which is mediation and collaborative. Most people are interested in that second page. And the collaborative process isn't always the right process for everybody. And if it's not, a lot of times they go to mediation. But sometimes, as I said before, sometimes for the litigation is the only way to go for certain situations. But to kind of tag on what Becky was talking about as far as gathering all of that financial information and providing information and the education the clients need to make informed decisions. One of the things we as the attorneys do is we will provide them what we call a shadow of the law. And that will be very specific to their particular situation. And that's usually done together in a meeting with Becky at the table as well. And sometimes we ask, do you want it in writing, or sometimes just verbal? It really, again, we're going to meet the clients where they're at and what they need. So the law is still very important in the collaborative process. And people can do whatever they decide to do as long as they have all the information. And it allows for much more creativity.
Well, so Elizabeth, one of the things I've sort of heard through the years of your role is that a couple, when they're getting divorced, probably have lost the ability to hear each other, and you kind of serve as a communications coach of sorts, right?
Sure. So one of the things that I try to teach clients to be able to do, partly so that they can self-monitor in the four-way meetings or the meetings with Becky, is to talk with them about what it means to be congruent. And when someone is congruent, and you guys can all test yourselves on this, when you're congruent, you can see your perspective, the context of the conversation, and the other person's perspective. It doesn't mean you agree with them, but you can hear it. You could articulate it back to them. And so oftentimes what I notice is that couples get really incongruent. They can only see themselves, or they can only see the other, or they can only see the context. And when I can help them balance that, maybe they just need a break. Maybe they need to take a beat and go get a drink of water or stand out in the cold for a minute. But when we can get them to really do that, to be able to see themselves, see the other, see the context, then they can communicate without being defensive. And when you can communicate with someone without feeling defensive, then you can hear them. And if they can do the same back to you, and oftentimes it becomes an attunement thing. Like if one does it, then the other matches it, just as if one's screaming, the other will match it. And then the other person will also become congruent, and then you get heard. So, and if we can teach them how to do that, then hopefully they're not only going to be able to do it in our process, in our collaborative or our mediation process, they can do it out there as co-parents for the rest of the time that they have to co-parent. And that's actually one of the great things about mediation and collaborative is we're trying to teach them to do better for the future in the moment. And that's one of the things I love about our process is that, you're getting a process and you're getting to improve your own process.
And what that translates into in terms of just reality is in the litigated process, they come back to the court to get decisions instead of making those decisions on their own.
Right. And oftentimes in a parenting plan, we'll have language in the document that they will return to an alternate dispute resolution process. Sometimes if they were working with Elizabeth, as an example, as a coach, they will go back to Elizabeth. And if they have some little bump in the road in regards to a parenting issue, and then they are not back in court. And it's just much better for the family, for the children.
Another tremendous advantage of having someone like Elizabeth on the team is that she helps the other professionals have insight into this couple and how we might react when they're being themselves in the meeting and how to prepare for what she has decided will be a probable response. So it's invaluable to have someone with that level of insight in helping the family.
So one of the things, though, that I love about collaborative in particular is that I have two other people to talk about this with. Even if I'm doing like a mediation within a litigation on a particular issue, I don't ever get to really talk with the attorneys and say like, hey, your client, when they start going, I don't know, that means they don't have access to this part of their brain. And so what they need is for you to ground them. Us being able to have those types of conversations amongst the professional team are of such value to the process and such value to the clients in ways they probably can't even imagine or conceive. But it also means that I don't have to practice in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. They don't have to practice in a vacuum. And, if we believe that, people heal in connection, then the professionals being connected helps the client's healing.
Yeah. So, Becky, you're a CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. What does that mean that you have in terms of special skills?
Well, I think that it should be distinguished from someone who has, for example, a business valuator background or an accountant background. Even though, yes, it is uh, uh, founded in the financial area of the process, we are taught how to help the couple go about determining their outcome. And so they are topics that are generic to this process, not necessarily helping them with their taxes moving forward or whatever area of expertise. It's focused on getting people to transition from a 2-income family over into a 1-income household. So unique skills that aren't shared by the traditional financial backgrounds.
So how did you, Becky, end up in collaborative? What led you to this process?
Well, I had a very successful, amicable divorce myself. And my ex-husband and I undertook a process called nesting. And we actually purchased a condo. He and I went back and forth between the households, and the children stayed in the same marital residence all the time. And we were able to do that for 4 years, which in my experience, I don't know if that's a record or not, but I like to say it is. I don't know.
Well, tell Tim where your ex-husband works.
Oh, he's right over there in the office. I've seen him every day since our divorce, probably over 20 years ago. But specifically to answer your question, the attorney who helped us through our process knew what I did for a living, which is financial planning. And she said, "Hey, Becky, if you get your CDFA, I can send you all my clients." So that was really what prompted me. And then because of my nesting experience, I wanted to help other families have the same amicable process that he and I did. So.
And so then, Elizabeth, how did you end up in collaborative?
Well, I ended up collaborative kind of a little bit tiny bit backwards. I went to law school for a year. It made me cry every day, so I quit. and decided I was going to go to graduate school. So I came to graduate school. But I come from a family of lawyers, and many of them are, in fact, divorce lawyers. So I'm a tiny bit of a Nepo baby around divorce and divorce law, even though I'm not a lawyer. And so when I went to graduate school, and I was really interested in family work and family systems, was working with a lot of families that had gone through litigation, and it had destroyed all pieces of their family and their ability to communicate. And these were people who kind of wanted to get along, but they just didn't know how, because litigation had pitted them against each other in such a fixed way. My survival depends on your non-survival is sort of the way they would frame it to a large degree. And as I was doing this, and I was just looking at it and going, this is nuts. And I didn't have an alternative for it. And one of my family members, who is a divorce lawyer, had gone to one of Stu Webb's trainings and sort of drank the Kool-Aid and loved it. Eventually became president of IACP for one of the terms that the lawyers did at that time, and was like, "You have to do this. They need mental health professionals. Your system's trained. You're perfect for this." And I was like, "Nah, I didn't like law school." And she's like, "Just go." And so, and the way that any parent can sort of coerce even an adult child, I did, and I was like, "Oh, these are my people. This is exactly what I want to do. This is what I was looking for, the tool to try to help families do it different, do it better." I think of it as a movement, not just a process. And I really want to be part of that movement.
Yeah. So you all are members of the Cleveland Academy of Collaborative Professionals. And Mary, what is that group?
So that organization was founded about 16 years ago, and we have approximately right now around 15 members. And it's made up of lawyers, financial neutrals, and coaches or family specialists. And everyone must be collaboratively trained, need to have the mediation training. And we meet once a month, and we talk about cases. We don't talk about names or anything, but we process cases that we've had. We talk about things that best practices we learned, mistakes that were made, how we can fix those mistakes in the future. And I would say that group, it's a great group of people and professionals that I highly respect, and I have no qualms with working with any of them. And that is a really, really important thing for this process, because a lot of times people think, well, what's my spouse's lawyer going to be like? We want somebody that knows what they're doing, is competent, and it just makes it just so much better, because it's like hand in glove, because we're working as a team. And I think Elizabeth mentioned where she was talking about there's people I can talk about this to. And that's super important, because we need, as Becky mentioned, we need Elizabeth's feedback as to what she's seeing, because she has different training and she's seeing these couples in a different arena than we are. And we really work together. We pre-meet on the process. When we have our meetings, we debrief, meaning not the organization's meetings, the collaborative meetings. We debrief what mistakes were made, what can we do better, or we high five each other. Hey, we did a great job. Not in front of clients, because that's not good. People that, because it's so hard, and we understand. I mean, there's been many times professionals have been moved to tears, because we're really helping. We're not hurting. And these people come to us hurting. We're not here to make it worse. We're here to help them get through this process in a dignified, respectful way. So the organization, as I mentioned, has been around for 16 years. I hope it's around for many, many, many more years after we are all long gone, because I think it's the best way to help a family.
So we're doing this podcast ahead of Divorce with Respect Week, which is coming up March 1st through 8th. And the Cleveland Academy of Collaborative Professionals is participating in that event. And during Divorce with Respect Week, your participating members who are on the Divorce with Respect Week website are offering free consultations. You can go to the site to schedule that consultation. But I wanted to ask each of you, what, in your mind, does it mean to divorce with respect? Mary?
The ability to hear your soon-to-be ex-partner, the ability to find your voice, meaning the client's voice. Sometimes there's someone who has a voice that's pretty meek. We try to help that person. And just to really meet each other where you're at. And the best part of it is our goal is to send out these couples in a way that they can communicate together, especially when they have children. Because if they can't co-parent, what does that do to those children? And then what do those children end up being like as adults, and who do they end up marrying? And we don't want we don't want it to repeat. We want to help people make better themselves, which are this little tiny part of society. Hopefully we're making it better.
Becky, what does respect look like for you in a divorce?
Well, I think with anything else, it starts with yourself and your perception of you. And so the more information that you have, from my biased perspective, at least financially, the more respect you have for yourself, and therefore the more awareness and respect you can have for your soon-to-be former spouse. And so I think it's just like so many other things. Information is power, and so the more knowledge you have, the better off you are going to be.
And Elizabeth, what does respect look like to you?
So I think what respect looks like to me is, again, sort of the concept of congruence, to being able to look at the situation, self, other context. But respect really, at least for me in this situation, is making sure that you respect what the family you had, because it's not demonized. Respect for how hard the process of divorce is, and respect for that the future and what that's going to look like. I always tell clients that, in order to gain respect and trust from the other person, you have to act towards yourself and the other and your kids and the process with respect and trust. And that will slowly but surely, hopefully, move the people's toes in the right direction. But because I find when people can respect one another, they can communicate, exercise goodwill, and common sense. And those are the three things you need to co-parent.
All right. Well, special thank you to Elizabeth Bach, Becky Murphy, and Mary Biacsi for being with us today on the Respectful Divorce podcast. If people would like to learn more about you individually or reach out to you, what's the best way to do that, Mary?
People can reach out to me through my website. The name of my firm is the Family Law Group, and we are in Cleveland. My email is mary@tflg.net.
Okay. Becky?
Well, certainly my contact information is on our group's website, the Cleveland Academy of Collaborative Professionals. But I also have my own website. It's called facilitateddivorcesolutions.com. And all my information and my background and everything, my experience with nesting is displayed on there.
All right. And Elizabeth?
My information is also on the Cleveland Academy of Collaborative Professionals website. I'm a total Luddite, so I don't have a personal website. So people usually just get me through email or text, MALORY214@yahoo.com. And my phone number is on the Collaborative website if people just want to shoot me a text. I'm pretty good about responding within 24 hours and trying to get people in within 10 days.
All right. Well, we will put all of that contact information in the show notes, along with the link to the website for the Cleveland Academy of Collaborative Professionals. I want to thank you for watching the Respectful Divorce podcast. This reminder that Divorce with Respect Week is coming up March 1st through 8th. You can talk with divorce professionals, including attorneys, financial professionals, and divorce coaches for free simply by going to divorcewithrespectweek.com to find a professional near you. Divorce with Respect Week, March 1st through 8th, and that website, www.divorcewithrespectweek.com. I'm Tim Crouch for the Respectful Divorce podcast, reminding you that collaborative divorce is a better way to untie the knot.